big reaction where they were like, ugh, that's disgusting. And I was sitting there like, that is a very normal image to me, like
Same.
a flushing toilet with blood in it, you know? So then the thought sort of expanded into like, how do people who menstruate view blood versus how people who have never menstruated experience blood. And I was just on a very big horror kick. I like a lot of horror movies, so
Same.
yes, I watched a lot of like the Slumber Party Massacre for
I love
a
that
lot
one.
of inspiration, and things like that. But it was just something that I wanted to explore, and I like, you know, a funny twist.
Yeah, because that's been censored on social media too. There was a controversy, wasn't there? Because you could show like the worst kind of violence. You could show people's actual wounds, but they were taking pictures down where you could tell it was menstrual blood.
Yes, yeah, and I delved into a lot of just like how the media portrays menstruation when I was making this film, because
Oh yes, the classic commercials you have in there.
yes, yeah, there's the second act, I guess, of the film is just a lot of, you know, the blue liquid that is so familiar in menstrual commercials, but not very familiar in real life, because that's not what it looks like.
No, it's not.
No,
But they
so
can't handle the truth.
they can't handle the truth.
They can't.
I have been seeing some recent commercials that are finally starting to use a red liquid, so I'm excited by that.
We're finally ready.
I know, we're finally ready. Society can take it now.
Is that, yeah, that ties into my next question of how you show how this is, they're going to market pads and stuff and tampons because this is big business and, you know, capitalism. So it was really interesting, you including like those old commercials after that to show how the awkwardness, like people obviously want to make money on this, but they didn't know how to market it.
Right, a lot of like women playing tennis and doing gymnastics and looking very happy, and then just this really eerie blue liquid. It doesn't really make any sense, because I think it's interesting how periods are
Well, it's
marketed
normal,
to be
'cause that's where
like
trained to-
sanitary.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, we can't really talk about how messy and kind of horrific they are.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, but relieving and, you know, kind of cyclical, because it is a cycle, and, you know, it comes and it goes and it makes sense, and yeah, I don't know, there's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, like, yeah, that scene was very humorous because you have the girls saying, "I'm so glad we synced up." So many spoilers, but
That's okay.
yeah.
yeah, they're just happy we synced up, and then, you know, don't let your period scare you. Tamplex.
Was it really fun shooting that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was, I like having sets where it's just like an all female empowerment set. I've done a few music videos like that where I was working with some, like a all-girl punk band in Minneapolis, and the whole set was just women and like femme-identifying folks, and that's always just a lot of fun, because that's not what a lot of film sets are like, and it was just kind of liberating.
Did everyone apologize profusely if they happened to bump into each other?
No,
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty freeing. It was just like, let's cover ourselves in blood and run around and scream and see what happens.
I had to ask, because at women networking events where it's all women, if we bump into, or we slightly get each other, we're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Right. It was a very polite film set, for sure. It was just, you know, it was just a lot of fun, though.
Yeah. So the mood on this was really, it seemed really light.
It was for such a like dark kind of tone for the shoot. It was definitely a lot of laughing, a lot of just like, how ridiculous is this, and yeah, we bonded.
Yeah. Is there like a reason you decided to approach your opening scene that way? Like what kind of gave you was there a particular moment of inspiration? Like, it seems like that moment in the theater with a lot of men, that's really what inspired you.
Yeah.
But was there a particular moment of inspiration behind that opening?
I think a lot of my past work has kind of focused on not menstruation necessarily, but dealing with like women's realities that make men uncomfortable, so I really wanted to, right off the bat, kind of explore that, and I wanted it to be intense, and I think, especially since I feel like the last act is more cathartic, so I just wanted it to start out how a lot of horror might. I think I also watched Blowout pretty around the same time, and that starts with a kind of similar sorority girls running around the house, and I think just those images stuck with me a lot.
Classic.
But I wanted to subvert it a little bit.
Subversion done, I think.
Thank you.
But, you actually wiped the next question out of my mind. Oh, I remember now. You mentioned the third act, and I guess we haven't talked much about that yet. But, you also show nudity in a way that we're not used to seeing. Like, the woman's body is very natural. She's in like this tub full of like red water, let's just call it.
Yeah.
And and she stands up, and you really see her in a very natural way. So how did you approach shooting that scene? Because it's very sensitively done, but it's very gritty.
Thank you. It was a extremely closed set. It was just me, my camera woman, and then the actress, and who was wonderful, Leah Gale. She's great. And I think something that has struck me in a lot of films is just the way that, like, women washing themselves is shown in a very sexual way often. Like, if we see a woman in the shower, it's like never just her cleaning herself. It's kind of always shown from this like male gaze where there's an ulterior motive there, and I wanted it to really just be like she is cleaning herself and she's in this bathtub. I mean, it's obviously a little bit exaggerated, but I really liked shooting that scene. It was kind of stressful because we forgot that when you put water in a bathtub, it gets heavy. So there was some drama about getting the bathtub in position and not spilling everything. There was a lot of water everywhere. But it was a nice shoot, and I think we had fuzzy robes available and wanted to make everyone comfortable. We laughed the whole time. It was really nice.
Yeah, that sounds like an ideal way to shoot a nude scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you advertise that kind of thing, how do you advertise? Because another film I love, The Love Witch, you could see this.
I love The Love Witch.
Yeah. And did you hear how they advertised like the role? They said there'll be some nudity, but we'll make sure you're comfortable. It was very sensitively done in like the casting notice that I saw.
Yes. For The Love Witch, that's amazing. I love that film. I love Anna Biller.
Me too. She's amazing.
When we were casting that role of the person in the bathtub, there was a point in the audition, I guess, or it was more of a conversation, and I just made sure to say, like, there is a nude scene. It would be a closed set, just me, my camera person, Emma McAllister, also great, and then you, and we would, supply towels and robes, and I just want to make sure you're comfortable with this. And most people said they were very comfortable with this idea. Leah, who is that actress in that scene, was extremely on board. She was just very excited by the concept. She was all for making a period-related movie. But yeah, it was very much a conversation that we had in the casting process to make sure that they were extremely aware of what was going to happen and aware that we were going to do it in a sensitive and kind of comfortable way for everyone.
Yeah, the little things you mentioned, like robes, towels, I guess some films really don't provide those things to actresses who do.
And like we had a shower on set so that immediately once the whole thing was done, because I mean she did get out of the bath and she was covered in blood, and we were like, it won't stain, I tested it at home, don't worry, you can go shower, we'll clean up this stuff. I just wanted to make sure, because it is very, I'm sure, I mean, I haven't I feel like that it's to be on camera in that way is so personal, obviously, and it takes a lot of bravery. So I just wanted to.
We analyze women's bodies like it might have gotten worse over the years, what with social media and everything.
Yeah, I
'Cause
agree.
there's so many ways you can be cruel to someone from a safe distance.
Absolutely.
And yeah, this, I take it your short, but was directed. We've talked a lot about this kind of being a reaction to like the classic male gaze in a way, but this seems aimed at women too, because you can't blame a lot of women for not being for being uncomfortable talking about their periods because they've been made to feel so uncomfortable about that.
Yeah, definitely. And I was uncomfortable talking about it for a very long time, and then I think something clicked in me where I was like, this happens to me every month. I don't know why I have to hide it all the time. If I'm in that much pain, why can't I talk about it? And why can't I don't know. And even when it's like comforting sometimes, like, oh, I got my period, why can't I just be like,
That's
this
cool.
is happening. This is what's going
Yeah.
on with me right now. It happens a lot. It happens to a lot of people. So
Almost
I
every woman in the world.
almost every woman, some men, it's not exclusive, but people who menstruate, it happens, and
It's natural. It
it's
should have to
natural,
be
and I
hidden.
feel like it should be talked about more, and I hope that some people who see this film will be inspired to talk about it a little more, even the bad or the good, whatever, it's something that happens to them.
Definitely. And like, were there any like, yeah, we've talked about specific inspirations for inspirations for specific moments, the opening and everything, but like, is there any like, or for the film itself, anything besides, You Were Never Really Here, great film, by the way, like any other like, influences on this film?
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot that influenced me while I was working on this, and there was
Shout outs.
yeah, I'm trying to, suddenly my mind is going blank. I mean, Lynn Ramsey and then Anna Biller, definitely. I think I channeled a lot of my love for the Love Witch. There were some, like, more experimental, underground films that, because I was in college at UW Milwaukee when I was making this. This was my senior thesis film, so a lot of my professors were huge inspirations to me. I would say Ariel Teal was, her film Becoming inspired a lot of my work. Jessie McLean, who is the voice of the commercial in this film, who says, "Don't let your period scare you." So much of her work has inspired me. Jennifer Reeder, who was not my professor, I've never met her, but her film Knives and Skin, which released last year.
Yes, that was
I
incredible.
love that film, and I think I saw that kind of around. I was already working on this movie, but I think that affected a lot of the ways that I approached post-production, and I was just so inspired by that movie.
Oh yeah, that movie was incredible. I interviewed her for it. And
Really?
Yeah.
I'm jealous. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was pretty cool talking to her.
She's great. Yeah.
She is. And yeah, dang it. Now I want to rant about that film, but pulling back. Yeah, we've talked about the experimental genre, and it seems to be. We seem to have gone. I'm looking at this, and we seem to have gone off. Oh, never mind. It's all good. All right. Well, what was I saying? Yes. Do you think? I've noticed the experimental film as a genre. It really seems to have been experiencing a resurgence. Do you agree?
Yes, definitely. And I think, I mean, I was not aware of as much experimental film as I am now prior to entering the film department at UW Milwaukee. They're very experimental film focused, and I had just never really explored that world, but I love it. I think, I think, experimental film is really interesting, and it can be even more personal sometimes than, or a lot of times than, like, commercial features and shorts. So I'm excited to see people getting more into experimental film. I was excited that I got more into experimental film.
Why do you think you hadn't before?
I just hadn't been introduced to it. I mean, I knew, like, the extent of my knowledge was, like, the films of Stan Brakhage, which are amazing, but, like, very experimental. And, like, I didn't know that there's kind of, like, obviously a spectrum of what experimental films can look like. I thought it was just, shot on film, you tape and glue different objects to the film, which is really cool, and I've tried that, and it's a lot of fun. But besides that, I just hadn't been introduced to it. And then my first semester at UW Milwaukee, I think even just like my first class, we were watching some really interesting works that I had never even thought that could be possible. And then the Milwaukee Underground Film Festival is really fun, and I'm showing there on the 20th, so I'm excited to be a part of that for the first time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think I have an idea of why experimental film seems to be experiencing this resurgence, but why do you think?
I think it's more accessible now with, Vimeo and everything. I mean, even just 10 years ago, I don't know if I would have known where to start looking for experimental film, and just like, I think there's a lot more time and effort being put into like the archival and restoration now of experimental works that were made, decades ago and were maybe almost lost. And so I don't know why the interest is more coming back, but I do think that it's finally becoming a little bit more within reach.
Definitely. And we also seem to really be rethinking so many conventions, too.
Yeah. It's just an interesting way to explore a lot of very deep thoughts and social matters. And I think it's a lot of fun, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, it also seems very easy to go wrong with it, though, too.
Yes.
Definitely. And yeah, you mentioned this was your senior thesis film, so you're not in school anymore then?
No, I graduated in December of 2019.
Oh, what a time to graduate.
Yeah, just a little bit before the world kind of fell apart a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, weird time to be a graduate, but what can you do?
At least you're not starting school.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
On a more cheerful note, what's next for you, do you think?
Besides
the Film Grow Film Festival.
Yes, that's coming up, and I'm very excited.
Thank you.
I'm showing a film of mine called Angles at the Milwaukee Underground Film Festival on the 20th, and I'm very excited for that. It's the second in a series of experimental films about like my relationship with my body, and a third installment is in the works a little bit.
So is this a planned trilogy, or?
I don't know how many there will be. It wasn't even a planned series, but then I just keep having more to talk about, I guess. But there's definitely a third one in the works. I don't know if that's the end, but for now.
Can you kind of tell us a little bit about Angle and the third film you're planning?
Well, Angles was a film that I made in my sex and gender and film and video class a couple years ago, and it was kind of like a personal documentation of some of my experiences, like with having a body, and exploring that through like screen recording of Photoshop. I like working in like a digital space a lot of the time. This new one is kind of going through more of that, but in a more physical way, with more related to food and the body. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know the answer to this question, but why do you think so many of your films like explore your relationship with your body?
I think it's a kind of universal experience for people, but especially women, even as like being at one point a little girl, just like having to deal with maybe my body not always being entirely mine. And so I'm, in the recent past years, I've been very excited to kind of reclaim my body and show it in ways that I didn't think were possible, or talk about it in ways that I would not have felt comfortable doing. Yeah, I think there's a lot of trauma that comes with having a body and being a girl.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what is your advice to other girls and women who, how do you kind of reclaim that space to say, no, you don't get to analyze, this is my body, I get to decide how I view it, what to do with it. How did you do that, and what would you give, how would you advise?
I mean, mine was like a lot of therapy and like working through a lot of things, but I think it's just important to remember that your body is yours and nobody else's. No one can tell you what to do with your body, what to put in your body, what you want to do. Like, you are in control of your body, and if you need to work through some things, I suggest making a film, making an experimental film, even just like a diary, video diary, something. I think art is a really good way to work through a lot of that trauma. Yeah.
Definitely. I think sadly, that's still something a lot of girls have to encounter.
Absolutely. So.
Well, it's an inevitable, not have to, but they inevitably do.
They do. I hope that changes, but.
So yeah, what do you want people to take away from this film in particular?
I hope that people are more comfortable talking about things that happen to them, especially natural things, but even if it's something that's not natural, I mean, there shouldn't be judgment associated with really anything, but especially just, like a naturally occurring medical body experience. Talk about it, because most likely other people also want to talk about it.
People who assume we're almost committing a murder every month.
Right. We're just like not really allowed to talk about it, or we think we're not allowed to. But I'm here to tell you, you are. I made a senior film about it. Thank you. And it's showing at Film Girl Film Festival. Yes.
And where can people find more information about you?
My Instagram account is half, I would say, pictures of my dog and then pictures of my art. So it's just Ehrlich Robyn, EHRLICH ROBYN. Otherwise, I'm always around showing stuff at different festivals. But I would say Instagram is the best way to find information about that stuff.
And I think art and pictures of your dog is a fantastic combination. So I've
Thank
seen
you.
your Instagram account, it's lovely.
Thank you.
And I've seen her film, it's unsettling in the best way, so.
That's what I wanted.
All right, now before we stop, like any particular film, any more